Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I can only say that it's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to be part of this wonderful Cel.Lep team. Yeah, so thank you for tuning in. Uh, First things first, I'd like to start by sharing here with you what we have in store on this fine Sunday morning. So let's move on. Let me just do something here very quickly and then I'll share with you. Okay, so our talk is going to revolve around three main topics, for some of which I really hope to bring some practical suggestions, okay? The first one is what we understand by bringing students on board. The second, self-confidence and its implication for learners' readiness to participate in oral activities. And the third, approaches and principles of adult learning. Well, I won't necessarily be following any order as I intend to discuss these ideas with you and link them to one another. And you will see that they are all really intertwined, okay? So I'd like to begin by sharing a thought from a very dear teacher with whom I've had the pleasure of working for the past months. I can say that her comments about her classes and the classes that I have observed and the comments from her teachers, her colleagues and her students, they all have been a great inspiration for me. So here's what she says. She says that bringing students' lives to class is an evolving way to raise genuine engagement. And more than that, it also builds a strong relationship of positive complicity among students. That's beautiful, isn't it? So as I thought about the title for this talk on students on board, I really got myself thinking about this business term onboarding. And then I thought that it would be very interesting to suggest an analogy between this business term onboarding and the process in which employees go through at a company and the process in which our learners go through in our schools. So reading about it, we can see that the process of onboarding is a process in which new employees gain the knowledge and the skills they need to become effective members of an organization. It is also the process of making a new employee feel part of the company and ensuring they have the right skills and knowledge to fulfill their role. So I believe that all these concepts, they have a lot in common with our line of work, don't you? I can see that you guys see a lot of things in common with our online, our crazy line of work. So as I kept reading about the onboarding process, all these words started to emerge. And when we think about this process of, developing skills, helping learners feel part of a team, right? These are very powerful concepts and they're not easy to accomplish, right? But that is one more thing that I also found out. I found out that the right onboarding process can bring a plethora of rewards to companies. And retention is definitely one of them. And I think that this is something we all want, right? Because as teachers, we want students to stay with us for as long as possible, but not as long as possible, but as long as they have accomplished all their dreams and goals, yeah, because we want to help them get there. Now, the onboarding process for us teachers and in our schools, it's an ongoing process, right? We have to do it right when students first join us in our schools, but it's vital that we continue doing it throughout their learning process with us. So I guess you will all agree with me that we have always to bring them on board with us for every single lesson that we teach, basically. So here I ask some questions that I guess might help us with our practice, okay? They can help us to guide some of the things that we do in our schools. So the first question that I pose here is, does my school have a well-designed onboarding strategy, such as welcome classes? Does your school offer a welcome class to your students? The second question here is, how have I welcomed new students into my classroom? And here, guys, I'm not just talking about the very first time students set foot in our schools. I'm talking about every day, on a daily basis, So when, for example, your students arrive late, they haven't done their homework, they are kind of lost. What do you do with these guys? Do you look at them with judging eyes, or do you smile with your eyes and you welcome this person in? The third question is, are some of the activities that I prepared aimed at making my students feel valued and welcomed? Yeah, so you got to think about your week, and then you can really thought it through, like, oh my God, have I prepared something here for my students that really engaged them, that made them share their experiences, the things that they like, that they don't like? Okay, so think it through, okay? I think it's a very crucial question for us. Do I know about my students' dreams and goals? Oh, this one, this question, I guess, goes without saying. Yes, it's essential that we know what our students want to accomplish using English as a tool. So, thinking about our first contact with our students and their first contact with their new classmates, I think it is vital for us to work on activities that will promote that sense of belonging among students, right? By doing so, however different students might think they are, as we work on these activities, they will soon find out that they have a lot in common, or even if they don't have a lot in common, they will find out that they have something in common, yeah? Now, you guys may have an array of activity, but I just thought that I'd give you an option which you can use for multiple purposes, okay? So you will see that the activity that I'm gonna bring here, you can use in different moments of the courses, okay? So here are some of the questions that I've prepared for my students. And you might want to ask these questions to get to know your students a little better, but you may also want to add other questions or even adapt this set of questions here, depending on the level of your students, okay? And here I would like to draw your attention to the third question. How do you think you learn new things? By reading, writing, or just listening? Later in the talk today, you will see how important that question is, because students, and we will be talking about adult students, you'll see that they come to our classes with a set of beliefs regarding how they think they learn. So I think this is a very important aspect for us to discuss with them at some point, yeah? And then the way you're gonna do this activity is, at least this is how I do it, okay? I put students in pairs. I have them interview one another. They take notes of the answers. And then I keep this as a document. And this document can help me later to prepare my lessons so I can personalize according to my students' likes and dislikes, according to their dreams and goals. I can use this set of questions later to help me give my students feedback, yeah? And also discuss their learning strategies, because one of the things that we want is take students out of their comfort zone, right? So by going back to those concepts they had about the way they think they learn, I think it's very nice for us to go back to there, so to that and discuss, so what do you think? Yeah, remember what you said when you first came into class? How's it going now? Are things working for you the way we are doing? Do we have to make any adjustments? So the third question, all the questions for me are very important, but this is one that can help you a lot, especially because of the things that I'm going to discuss with you today, okay? Lest you start to think that it's all flowers and joy, that students will easily allow themselves to be welcomed on board, we'll see that the onboarding process can be quite complex sometimes. And when we go back to those words related to onboarding, making students and employees feel part of the team, helping them gain knowledge and develop skills, we are aware this is a major undertaking, right? I'm sure that those of you who have been teaching for a while, you know that. Now, those of you who have just started in this crazy business of teaching, a word of advice for you. Get out now while you still can. I'm just kidding. I know you guys like a challenge or two. I know I do. If you are a teacher, you like a challenge. So let me see here. Let me show you one of the things that can seriously interfere with this whole onboarding with students' success, okay? So one of the things is their lack of confidence, right? We will see that for Zoltan Dornier and Stephen Krashen, the concept of confidence is closely related to concepts of low self-esteem, self-efficacy, and high anxiety. But what happens when we are dealing with all these emotions in the classroom, right? What happens? Well, Krashen will say that we all have an affective filter, yeah? And when this filter is high, and that is a low self-esteem, because, you know, motivation is low as well, anxiety is up there, what happens is this filter will work as a block that will basically keep information out, okay? In other words, when this filter is high because of low self-esteem, high anxiety, the input won't make its way to the parts of the brain, quote unquote, that do language acquisition, okay? So it works as a block. It won't make its way to these parts that, quote unquote, do language acquisition. Now, let's not forget that for Krashen, language acquisition and language learning are different things, okay? So just make sure that we remember that. And Krashen goes as far as to claim that anxiety has to be zero in the language classroom. That's quite something, right? But even though Stephen Krashen's hypothesis has been met with some criticism, we all know, guys, too well what high anxiety, fear, nervousness can do to our learners' performance, right? We know that. What a fear of losing face, right? Our students don't want to lose face in our language classrooms, okay? So confidence is basically defined as being certain of your abilities, holding the belief that you are able to do things well, having faith in oneself. And we have here Dornier saying that self-esteem and self-confidence are like the foundations of a building. If they are not secure enough, even the best technology will be insufficient to build solid walls over them. You can employ your most creative motivational ideas, but if students have basic doubts about themselves, they will be unable to bloom as learners. Oh gosh, this is Mr. Dornier making us all feel a little less confident now, because come on, that sounds quite like the responsibility, doesn't it? So this is a lot for us. It's a big undertaking, right? However, I believe that once we understand a little bit more about confidence and some of the reasons why our learners may lack it, I'm sure that we can feel better able to start building solid foundations. So that is hope, folks. That is light at the end of the tunnel. Just bear with me. And here's something you can do, right? I know there are lots of things you can do to help your students overcome low confidence, but here I'll give you a suggestion among many others that you might have there. So you can just flip it, yeah? And here I borrowed the name of a book called Flip It, Strategies for the ESL Classroom. It's a book written by Robin Lockwood. And for those of you who are not really familiar with the concept of flipping a classroom, broadly speaking, flipping your classroom is basically having learners study the material before going to the classroom. The classroom that will be then the place where they will be working on more practical activities. And if you think about the cognitive domain from Benjamin Bloom, they will be working with activities that are at the top with higher level thinking activities, okay? Now, there are several benefits to flipping your classroom. But because we are talking about feelings and emotions here, I will be focusing on just a few of them, okay? The first one is that it allows the students to work at their own pace. That means that they can rewatch videos, they can reread the materials, they can play audios as many times as they wish, because one of the things that students might feel is that, oh my God, what if I go to class, the teacher plays a listening comprehension exercise and I'm not able to understand, and the teacher has to play it once, twice, 3 times just because of me. So we don't want that kind of exposure, right? It promotes more interaction, because once learners have had contact with material before they came into our classes, I'm sure they will be able to bring something to the table, right? Right from the beginning of the class. It helps lower anxiety, because for those people who are highly anxious, they might think, oh my God, what if I don't understand? What's this class gonna be about? What if I don't understand the topic, the ideas being discussed, yeah? And last but not least, it helps instill a sense of agency, which we will also see later today that this is a very important concept for adult learners. Once they like being in charge of their own learning as well. It doesn't work for everyone. We know that some people, we really need to get them by their hands, you know, but most adults like having control of things, okay? So flip it. Does it sound like an option for you? Is this something you might want to try? Yeah, you don't have to do it for all your lessons. You might choose to do that for some of the lessons you'll be teaching, okay? So if you wish to learn a bit more about the flipped concept, you can read a book called Flip Your Classroom, Reach Every Student in Every Class Every Day, a book written by Jonathan Bergman and Era Sams. If you speak Portuguese, you can read my undergraduate thesis on the flipped classroom. I have written a lot about it too, so let me know. You'll see my email at the end of this presentation. We can share some ideas, okay? If you have any questions on this subject. Now here I bring a modernized or an interpretation, if you like, of Socrates' teachings. This is something that he didn't really say the way it is here, but I guess it has to do with the way that he taught his learners. And I think this is a very powerful thing here, this quotation. And I bring this quotation here because I wanted to add a twist to it. So the quotation goes, I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. And I think this is a beautiful thing. I totally agree with that statement. But I believe, and this is my personal view, that for us teachers, things go a little beyond that. I think that not only we have to help our learners think, but we also have to help them feel and feel more capable of doing things or doing whatever it is they want to accomplish. So this is me saying that I think we humans, we have that power to help people feel things, right? We can do that. And as teachers in the classroom, we have that power, right? To help our students feel better about themselves, about their production, about their progress in our courses, right? And this begs the question, how do we foster feelings of self-worth and confidence in their own abilities? Because here am I saying, I am saying that we need to help them feel stuff. And how do we do that? So it's commonplace, guys, but success breeds success, don't you think? Yeah, so as teachers, we have to promote those moments in which our learners will feel successful. They will say, oh, I can do this. I did it, yeah? And we need to show them exactly what they did right so that they can really, truly feel that sense of success, okay? But I also suggest that we understand a little bit more about the affective domain. So the affective domain, it's one of the 3 domains of learning, and it has to do with our feelings, emotions, attitude adjustments, and taxonomy is just a word for classification, okay? Each domain is organized from the simplest to the most complex levels, as we will see in the next slide. So I believe it's worth taking a quick dip into how Mr. Benjamin Bloom and his colleagues defined this emotional side of human behavior. The first one is receiving. This is the lowest level. It's a stage where students are willing, not really interested yet, but they are willing to listen and to receive information. The second stage is responding. This is where we will see students' reactions and responses to the first stimuli, whether we played a video or we proposed a debate or they saw maybe a lecture, okay? So we will see them reacting. And that's why it is crucial, it is of paramount importance that we work on activities that will spark reactions. Yeah, we don't want students to stay at the first level. We want them to keep moving up the ladder, right? So think about it when you're teaching your learners. Am I producing things here that is going to spark positive reactions from my learners? And then you might also consider that absenteeism can be a sign that your students are no longer willing to listen to whatever you have to say, okay? So keep track of those guys who are not really coming into class anymore, okay? The third level, it's a stage where we start to see students really valuing and seeing the benefits of what we propose in the classroom. Okay, they might go like, I can see myself applying some of this knowledge, some of this content in my daily life, yeah, at work, when I travel. So learners need to attach value to what they are learning in the classroom with us, okay? The fourth stage is organizing. Here, learners, they start integrating new information, new sets of beliefs, and they really start comparing it with their own sets, okay? They start accepting other viewpoints, comparing and categorizing them into their own sets of values. The last one, at the very top, we have characterizing. This is the highest point. This is when we really start to see change taking place, because not only will our students internalize new values and beliefs, but we'll start to see them acting, behaving according to these new sets of beliefs. Okay, so it's something very interesting to see, right? So when we go back to that question that I proposed at the beginning of our talk today, when they discuss with us how they think they learn, this is something that we might notice. I thought the only way I learned was that certain way. And then here at this level, we will see students behaving. They will be more accepting of what we have to propose, okay? And guys, even though Bloom's taxonomy was devised for educational purposes, we have here in the next slide, Brown saying that it has very high relevance to second language acquisition. Let's see what Brown has to say. So he goes on to say that the fundamental notions of receiving, responding, and value are universal. In second language acquisition, learners need to be receptive both to those with whom they are communicating and to the language itself, responsive to persons and to the context of communication, and to place a certain value on the communicative act of interpersonal exchange. Now, the words that really caught my attention in Brown's quotations were communicative, interpersonal exchange, place value. So we need to ask ourselves, how much of my lesson is dedicated to real communication? If we go back to what Claudia said at the beginning of this talk, creating complicity, bringing students' lives to the classroom, isn't it what we should be doing, right? Yeah? Do we promote those moments in which the students are exchanging personal experiences? Do they see the value in what we are teaching? Yeah, why are we learning certain things? Yeah. On that note, I really would like to share with you a snippet from a class of another very dear teacher who has been doing an exceptional job with her students at our school. Okay. So the next one, one of the things that I really wanted to do was to provide you with a couple of examples from real class situations so that we could translate all this theory into reality, okay? So you are about to see teacher Renee with her A1 students on a warm-up activity that will later lead to a lesson in which learners will have to talk about their family relationships using the genitive case, okay? So this is the concept of this lesson here today. And just so you know, she had previously talked to students about their families, okay? So today this is a warm-up. She's bringing back what they had discussed on the day before. And it's a memory game, okay? Let's see. Just click on play here for you guys. Okay.
It's a memory game.
Nossa, minha memória é péssima, posso inventar?
Oh, well, you can try. It's possible, okay? No problem.
Oswald has two brothers and one sister.
Two brothers and one sister. Is this correct, Oswald? Hello? Is this correct?
Not correct.
So, how many many brothers and sisters?
I have one older brother. Only one brother.
So only one older brother.
Older brother.
Okay, yeah.
And your father, Oswald.
Oh,
Yes.
and his father's name is Oswald. Oswald.
Yes.
Okay, not Oswald has one brother and his father's name is Oswald. Very good.
Thank you, Renee, for sharing such good practices with us. Okay. So what did we notice here, guys? As short as this video is, we see that there is a lot of good stuff happening. And I'm confident that we can find a plethora of things that illustrate some of the concepts that we have discussed so far, right? The first thing is we notice that the whole demeanor is very calm and relaxed. The students are very friendly. They're smiling, right? We have Marcus at the top, even though he's not talking much, but he's looking at the screen. He is taking notes. So if we go back to the affective domain, do we see him really getting interested in the topic there? We also have here willingness to listen and respond. If we see the second student, Eliana, she's like, oh no, Bam, no, that's not right. No, you don't remember the right answer. Yeah, you don't remember about Oswald's family. Yeah, so she's like, Bam, no. And she also goes like, and Oswald's father is also Oswald. Yeah, she's trying somehow to use the genitive case, and teacher Renee, she takes that advantage and she types that. So it's already a link that she can use later to explain the genitive case. And it was basically an example that came from the student. How powerful that is, yeah? And we have Diana, the last student. She comes in, those of you who are here and don't speak Portuguese, but she said that, oh my God, I don't remember, I don't have a good memory, I have a terrible memory. But still, she managed to use the correct third person there. She said, oh, Oswald has. And why she was able to be successful, even though she didn't remember much about the previous lesson when they were talking about how many brothers and sisters they had. She was able to do that because there was visual aid, yeah. So with that visual aid, she was able to make her sentence and participate, right? Do you think there was engagement? I think there was. I think students were very engaged. They were smiling, they were excited, they wanted to participate, they were definitely engaged because that conversation was something that had value, right? When we talk about our families, yeah, they are very dear to us, yeah? So there you go, yeah? Something as simple as that can work really, really well. And I think you're gonna agree with me that didn't take much to prepare. There was not much preparation. She just, you know, started the class trying to check how much they remembered about each other's family. Now, let's turn our attention to other aspects of adult learning, okay? So let's see. Firstly, guys, one of the things that research has shown is that emotion and cognition cannot be dissociated. Schumann, in his book, The Neurobiology of Affect in Language, he claims that emotion underlies most cognition, if not all of it. Now, that's quite something, isn't it? So we shall not forget that learning a foreign language demands a level of engagement and exposure that is unlike learning any other subject matter. Okay, so this is very important for us to know. So having said that, I believe that it's paramount that we language teachers, we familiarize ourselves with other assumptions that underpin adult learning, okay? Therefore, I thought it would be very interesting for us to draw some parallels between the affective principles that we have seen so far, the affective filter, the affective domain, and draw this parallel with andragogy, okay? So, andragogy provides us with some general guidelines for working with adults, yeah? And here I say general guidelines because, you know, individuals are different. Some of the things might work for some people, and there's always an exception, right? So that's why I say it's a general guideline. So this term, andragogy, was first used in 1833 by a German educator called Alexander Kapp, but it was Knowles who made it popular in the 70s, okay? So for Knowles, andragogy is premised on a few characteristics. The first one is self-concept. And Knowles says that as we mature and we move from dependency to a more self-directed reality, the less we like to be exposed or put into situations in which we have little control or no control at all, right? Because that would really cause tension and ultimately resistance to learning, okay? How many times have we dealt with that? Yeah, students have that self-concept that is not really right, adequate for learning a language, okay? So when we think about the stages of the affective domain, we really want students to get to that higher place, don't we? Where we really see change, and when students really start to perceive things in a different way. And what does that mean for us in the classroom, especially when we talk about this self-directing way of dealing with things, yeah? So they basically take pleasure in being involved in their learning. The second one is experience. And here's where I'd like to draw another parallel between Knowles' assumptions, yeah, these andragogy assumptions, and the affective principles. Because although adult learners, they provide us with a wealth of experience for us to draw on, they also come with some challenging backgrounds, yeah? For instance, failed attempts at learning a second language, anxieties and fears. So that's why I really like to draw this parallel, okay? Experience is good, we can draw on it, we can build on it, so it kind of makes it easier, but at the same time it doesn't, because all this experience also comes with some traumas sometimes, yeah? And what do we do then? Another thing that we need to consider is what Rachel Robert says. So because we are talking about all these traumas and maybe fears of failing, Rachel Robert says that we need to make it so that the urge to say something is stronger than the embarrassment or anxiety they might feel. So there you go, that's something, right? So of course, not all of your students in your classroom will be freaking out because they are, you know, highly anxious. But for those, we need to cater to those needs, yeah? Those who are fearing of losing face or they are highly anxious. So I'd like to take the opportunity to show you a couple of activities prepared by my dear teacher Claudia. And unfortunately, we don't have a video to show you because this activity is from a time when we were not recording our lessons as much as we are recording now, right? So after coronavirus, we started recording more. But here's what she did. She had to teach her students the relative pronouns who, which, and that. And she knew her students loved George Clooney. So what she did was she brought the picture of George Clooney to the class. Of course, they were all excited. Oh my God. And then they started talking about George Clooney, and she wrote on the board, Adriana has a boyfriend, he's an actor, and he's handsome. So students were really excited, and they started talking about it right away. They managed to put the sentence together. The other activity is she brought the song by the Beatles called Michelle, because she knew one of her students' name was, wife's name was Michelle. So as they worked on the song activity, there was a teaching point there, but the most important thing for me here is the fact that as they talked about the song, they discovered that his wife's name was Michelle because her parents really liked the song. So you see, I mean, it's just a picture of a handsome guy. It's just a song. But guys, can you just imagine how much that got the students talking? How much engagement that provided, yeah, that promoted actually. It shows also that the teacher is listening. The teacher cares about the things that they like, okay? So now moving on to Knowles assumptions, we have already talked about self-concept. We also talked about their experience. The third assumption is readiness to learn, whereas children, guys, are ready to learn those things like they have to, they ought to, because of their biological or academic development. We will see that adult learners are ready to learn those things that they need to really fulfill their roles as fathers, as workers, as members of an organization, okay? So it's a little different for them. The fourth one is orientation to learn, and time is of essence. While teenagers, for example, they see a postponed application of their learning, let's say because they're studying this because they want to pass an entrance exam, or okay, this is when I find a job, for the time when I find a job. We will see that with adults, they want to apply tomorrow what they learned with us today. So it's very important that we are teaching things that have an immediate application for our adult learners, because if they feel that, oh, I'll never use that, that might be really, boring for them. And the fifth one is motivation. This is an assumption that was added in 1984. And some will say that real motivation is the one that comes from within, okay? So Knowles will say that it's mostly intrinsic, internal, and Brown also says here that no matter what extrinsic rewards are present or absent, we will strive for self-esteem and fulfillment. So guys, these are very powerful words, yeah? So basically what these guys, these theorists are saying is that, okay, all right, external motivation, but what they're saying is motivation that will really get us doing things is the one that is intrinsic, yeah? Because at the end of the day, we are all searching for self-actualization. At the end of the day, we just want to look good. We want to feel good. That's interesting, isn't it? So, we have talked about how important it is for students to learn things that are related to their work, that they see application, that adult learners, they like to study more serious stuff, that will help them fulfill their roles. I also think that it's important that we make it fun, just like my dear, very dear friend Marilyn discussed with you yesterday in her talk. Make it fun. Yeah, try something silly. I'm about to show you another video from teacher Renee in which she's just using a filter. I don't know if you are familiar with the Snap camera, but it's a very nice way for you to bring some fun in your class if you're not really into like wearing wigs or putting on crazy makeup or mustaches. This is something you can do as well, yeah? And adult students, they like to be pleasantly surprised. They don't want to be surprised in a bad way, like, oh, now go there and talk, and we put them in the spotlight. No, they like being surprised in a pleasant way. So let's see, let me play here, teacher René.
Welcome back, everybody. Okay, thanks for returning. Guys, by the way, am I a fruit or a vegetable?
Her eyes like.
Guys,
Your fruit.
Watermelon.
right? What fruit? A banana?
Watermelon. Watermelon.
Thank you, a watermelon. A delicious fruit. Do you like watermelon?
Yes.
Ah, that's nice. On this note, I'd like to share one last thought on motivation and engagement from Mr. Dornier. He says, motivation is necessary for preparing the deal, but engagement is indispensable for sealing the deal. I love this quotation because we are talking here about how to motivate them, how to engage them. It's not just the serious stuff that we engage these guys. Something fun, silly, because they remember that they want to feel good. People want to feel good. And in a nutshell, guys, the next time we teach our adult learners, let's remember that emotion and cognition walk hand in hand. And let's ask ourselves, how do we infuse more emotion into cognition? After all, feelings have to be taken seriously. Think about the affective domain and how we can help students get to that very top where we see change taking place. Consider that andragogy assumptions are really helpful in guiding us in our practice. And remember, experience is who they are. If you don't respect that, they feel you are disrespecting the person. Make sure you have onboarding strategies. Positive results can spring up from the simplest ideas. You don't have to prepare much, but prepare something meaningful. I strongly believe that once we take all that into consideration, engagement will kick in. And I am confident we will help our learners to maximize their success. These are my references. If you want to take a picture, feel free so. And thank you very much for staying tuned. I hope to see you some other time. Thank you.